Good morning, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to kick off 25th Chhattisgarh Foundation Day celebrations to unveil development projects worth over rupees 14,000 crores. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh calls for deeper Indo-Pacific cooperation at ASEAN Defence Ministers Plus meeting in Malaysia. Sudan's paramilitary forces RSF claims arrest of fighters accused of abuses in El-Faser. UN demands probe into horrendous accounts of atrocities. US judge directs Trump administration to provide SNAP food aid benefits amid shutdown that hits its 31st day, while Trump seeks clarification on funding food aid. And in sports, FIDE Chess World Cup begins in Goa. Over 200 players from 80 countries to participate. Chhattisgarh is celebrating 25 years of its formation as a state. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Chhattisgarh in a short while from now. His visit is being seen as a beginning of a new chapter in the development journey of the state.
Chhattisgarh is buzzing with excitement. The Indian state is set to witness a significant moment on November 1st this year. It will complete 25 years since its formation. Once surrounded by the threat of Naxalism, the state is now inching closer to becoming Naxal-free, witnessing a new dawn of peace and prosperity, a result of the government's firm policies and consistent security operations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Chhattisgarh on November 1st. From interacting with children successfully treated for congenital heart diseases, to inaugurating the new Brahma Kumari's building, unveiling the new Legislative Assembly complex and the Tribal Museum, Prime Minister Modi's visit is packed with major events.
We have a very small team, sir. We have got 4 hospitals, of which Raipur is the first hospital. We have got 20 odd doctors, and most of us are sort of multitasking. Most of us are devotees of Baba and are service oriented. We follow the tenets of our Swami Baba, and one of the things was we have to provide access to care to those who are unserved. So the main motto is, first of all, love all, serve all, and second thing is to serve the unserved, sir.
The Prime Minister will also unveil the statue of Bharat Ratna and former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee at the new Chhattisgarh Vidhan Sabha building in Nava Raipur, Atal Nagar. Keeping sustainability in mind, this state-of-the-art complex is fully powered by solar energy and equipped with a rainwater harvesting system.
Right now, I'm standing in front of the new Chhattisgarh Legislative Assembly, which Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be inaugurating. This complex is built at a cost of around 324 crore rupees, and this embodies the concept of Make in Chhattisgarh, where every element is built local.
ये छत्तीसगढ़ के विकास का प्रतीक है। आत्मनिर्भर होता छत्तीसगढ़, विकसित छत्तीसगढ़, स्वाभिमान के साथ खड़ा छत्तीसगढ़, देश में विकसित राज्य की श्रेणी में जा रहा है छत्तीसगढ़।
PM Modi will inaugurate and visit the Shaheed Veer Narayan Singh Memorial and Tribal Freedom Fighters Museum. Spread over 9.75 acres, the museum has been built at a cost of 50 crore rupees and showcases 12 major tribal movements across India.
This museum is a Honorable Prime Minister vision, and he announced that wherever tribal people had freedom fighters, he will make a museum all over state, all over country, and Chhattisgarh is one of them. And tribal people, they are very excited that Honorable Prime Minister will come and he will have a Lokarpan here.
The Prime Minister will also participate in the 25th State Foundation Day celebrations and will inaugurate and lay the foundation stone for the developmental and transformative projects worth over 14,260 crore rupees, covering key sectors such as roads, industry, health and energy.
At a time when Chhattisgarh is celebrating its glorious 25 years of its foundation, this visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi is really significant as it will give an impetus to the development of the state. With camera person Manmohan, this is Siddharth Bhardwaj reporting for DD India in Nawa Raipur.
And Prime Minister Modi extended his greetings on Chhattisgarh Statehood Day. He says on X, and I quote, "Heartiest greetings to all my brothers and sisters of Chhattisgarh on the 25th anniversary of the state's foundation day. This state, dedicated to nature and culture, is today engaged in setting ever new benchmarks of progress. Many areas here, once affected by Naxalism, are now competing in development. I'm confident that with the dedication and enterprise of hard-working and skilled people here, our state will play a pivotal role in realizing the vision of a developed India." Unquote. And DD India correspondent Siddharth Bhardwaj joins us live from Nawa Raipur, Chhattisgarh. Siddharth, with a host of development projects to be launched by Prime Minister, what does 25 years of statehood mean for the people of Chhattisgarh?
Oh, first of all, a very good morning to you, Shubhendu, and definitely it means a lot for the people of Chhattisgarh because, there are various reasons to it. These people have seen this state's progress. This is a state which was once affected by the Naxalism, and now this is the time when it's inching closer towards being Naxal-free. And today is a very important day as well for the people of Chhattisgarh because this state is also completing its 25 years, celebrating the Silver Jubilee. It was on November 1st in year 2000 when this state was formed, and today it's now celebrating its 25 years. And on this occasion, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also visiting here in Chhattisgarh. And it's very, very important and crucial visit by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Shubhendu, because, it will give an impetus. It will give a boost to the state's development. There are a number of, the itinerary of Prime Minister Narendra Modi includes number of major projects, which also includes, the interaction with these children who are there, who successfully treated with heart diseases. And, it's the biggest example when it comes to the progress of a state. Behind me is the Sri Satya Sai Sanjeevani Hospital. And we just had a word with those little children, and they were really thankful to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and, of course, his vision. They said that they got another life, and thanks to the healthcare facilities in the state. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be interacting with them. There are around 2,500 students, to children, and their parents were also thankful, to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Apart from that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be inaugurating the new Chhattisgarh Legislative Assembly and will also be, unveiling the statue of Bharat Ratna and former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Remember, Shubhendu, when it comes to this new Chhattisgarh Legislative Assembly building, it was built keeping the sustainability factor in mind and also with the spirit of Make in Chhattisgarh, because every element in that building is made locally.
Okay.
Apart from that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be inaugurating the new tribal museum, which will certainly goes on to show the sacrifice, the dedication, the patriotism of the tribal community, which has got an upliftment with the vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi with certain schemes like Janman. They are now getting access to education, and the doors of new opportunities are certainly opening for the tribal community. So they're really, really thankful. So this is a very significant visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Shubhendu, to the state of Chhattisgarh. And where I am right now, it's Nawa Raipur. It's an economic and tourism hub.
Right.
It's a smart city built with every modern technology. And
a host of projects, Siddharth. You're right. You mentioned the context of Naxalism as well. We understand hundreds of Naxals have surrendered in the past weeks. How is the state creating opportunities for peace and rehabilitation efforts?
See, Shubhendu, the government has a clear policy as set by Home Minister Amit Shah that when it comes to Naxalism and Naxalites, that either you surrender or you face the wrath of our forces. So this is a clear policy by the government, and that's why hundreds of Naxals have surrendered in the past week, and they're surrendering also with each passing day. Hereby also creating opportunity for themselves. And Home Minister Amit Shah has also said that the state will be Naxal free, before March 2026. So So there are some operations by the central forces. It's a joint effort by the central and state when it comes to the policies. When it comes to policies, for example, the Black Forest, Operation Black Forest. So eradicating and uprooting Naxalism is the priority of the government, and he promised to the state. Under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the people of the state are really, really happy. They got another freedom, and now the state altogether looks different when it comes to Naxalism, and it will be Naxal free before March 2026. So yeah, definitely it's a very significant visit, which will give a boost to the development of the state, and also people are really happy with the way the state is progressing. Like I just told you, that biggest example, when it comes to healthcare is behind me, where small students, little children are very, really happy. They said that they got another life. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be interacting with them.
Siddharth.
And they're also excited, on the other hand, to interact with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And there are other projects where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will dedicate, their over 14,000 crore rupees, which covers infrastructure, which covers roads, energy, which will further, help and assist in the progress of Chhattisgarh. And this is coming at a time when the nation is walking on the path of self-reliance. And also, this is aligning with the vision of Viksit Bharat 2047, where in 2047, India will
Siddharth, special day indeed for people of Chhattisgarh.
Under the sun. Yes.
Right, there, Siddharth. Thanks very much for all the inputs and insights. And Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, who is in Kuala Lumpur, attended the second session of ASEAN-India Defence Ministers meeting. The minister talked about ADMM Plus as a key part of India's Act East policy, saying it strengthens defence ties with ASEAN and Indo-Pacific countries, supporting regional peace and stability.
Excellencies, भारत के लिए ADMM Plus उसकी Act East policy और व्यापक इंडो-पैसिफिक विजन का एक अभिन्न हिस्सा है। यद्यपि आसियान के साथ भारत का जुड़ाव इससे पहले से रहा है, लेकिन इस तंत्र ने डिफेंस कोऑपरेशन के लिए एक स्ट्रक्चर्ड प्लेटफॉर्म प्रदान किया है, जो हमारे डिप्लोमेटिक और इकोनॉमिक एस्पेक्ट्स को और मजबूती देता है। भारत आसियान और प्लस कंट्रीज के साथ अपने डिफेंस कोऑपरेशन को क्षेत्रीय शांति, स्थिरता और क्षमता विकास में योगदान के रूप में अपना रोल देखता है।
And earlier on Friday, the minister highlighted the wide array of domains of India-ASEAN cooperation and the role this partnership plays in addressing traditional and emerging security challenges in the region.
हमारी पार्टनरशिप मजबूत पीपल टू पीपल लिंकेजेस, कल्चरल एफिनिटी और पॉलिटिकल, सिक्योरिटी, इकोनॉमिक और सोशियो कल्चरल डोमेन्स में बढ़ते व्यवहारिक सहयोग पर आधारित है। इंडिया का आसियान के साथ इंगेजमेंट मल्टीलैटरलिज्म, इंक्लूसिविटी, इक्वालिटी और सॉवरेनिटी के रेस्पेक्ट पर आधारित है। डिफेंस और सिक्योरिटी कोऑपरेशन डिप्लोमेटिक और इकोनॉमिक इनिशिएटिव्स को कॉम्प्लीमेंट करता है। इससे एक हॉलिस्टिक पार्टनरशिप बनती है जो ट्रेडिशनल और इमर्जिंग सिक्योरिटी चैलेंजेस दोनों को एड्रेस करती है।
The minister said 2026 would be celebrated as ASEAN-India Year of Maritime Cooperation. He shared India's viewpoint on freedom of navigation in the South China Sea.
रीजनल सिक्योरिटी ढांचे में इंडिया की भूमिका ADMM प्लस और अन्य आसियान लेड मैकेनिज्म्स में सक्रिय भागीदारी पर आधारित है। भारत डिजास्टर रिलीफ, काउंटर टेररिज्म और मैरीटाइम सिक्योरिटी में योगदान देता है और साउथ चाइना सी में फ्रीडम ऑफ नेविगेशन तथा इंटरनेशनल लॉ के पालन का समर्थन करता है। मैरीटाइम सेक्टर में हमारे सहयोग को और गहरा करने के लिए आसियान और इंडिया ने वर्ष 2026 को आसियान इंडिया ईयर ऑफ मैरीटाइम कोऑपरेशन घोषित करने पर सहमति व्यक्त की है।
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh met his South Korean counterpart An Gyu-pak on the sidelines of ASEAN-India Defence Ministers meeting in Kuala Lumpur. He also met New Zealand's Defence Minister Judith Collins, extended invitation to visit India. Her visit will reaffirm shared vision of India and New Zealand to build a forward-looking partnership in defence. Minister Singh also met his Vietnamese counterpart Phan Van Giang in Kuala Lumpur. Moving on, India and Australia discussed expanding military cooperation in areas such as amphibious operations and unmanned aircraft systems during the latest Army-to-Army staff talks, which were held in Canberra from 29 to 31st of October. Both sides reaffirmed their shared commitment to regional peace and stability. The Indian delegation also paid homage at the Australian War Memorial and visited Royal Military College, Doordarshan. India has created history under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi and Health Minister JP Nadda. The Swasth Nari Sashakt Parivar Abhiyan has created 3 Guinness World Records, recognizing India's unparalleled commitment to preventive and women-centric healthcare. The records achieved are as follows: most people to register for a healthcare platform in 1 month, which is over 3.21 crore. Most people to sign up for a breast cancer screening online in a week, which is over 9.94 lakh. Most people to sign up for vital signs screening online in a week at state level, which is over 1.25 lakh. Prime Minister Modi had launched nationwide campaign Swasth Nari Sashakt Parivar Abhiyan from 17th September to 2nd October this year in conjunction with Poshan Mah. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Moldova elects new Prime Minister to lead the EU bid. Protests and grief in Serbia marks anniversary of railway station roof collapse tragedy. And now Trump says he's not considering striking Venezuela. Welcome back. You're watching DT India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Sudan's paramilitary Rapid Support Forces RSF have said they have arrested several fighters accused of abuses during capture of El-Faser. At war with the army since April of 2023, the RSF seized El-Faser on Sunday, dislodging the army's last stronghold in the western Darfur region after an 18-month siege marked by bombardment and starvation. The RSF released footage appearing to show Abu Lulu behind bars in what they claim to be a North Darfur prison. It pledged to ensure military discipline during wartime and promised a fair trial for those detained. Meanwhile, on Friday, the United Nations voiced alarm at emerging details of executions, gang rapes and abductions in El-Faser. The UN said death toll could reach hundreds, while army allies have accused the RSF of killing over 2,000 civilians. Also, United Nations warned that bloodshed was spreading beyond Darfur, with atrocities reported in neighboring Kordofan region as well. El-Faser's fall to the RSF gave it full control over all 5 state capitals in Darfur, effectively splitting Sudan along an east-west axis. The paramilitaries have established a self-declared rival government in Darfur. The army holds Sudan's north, east and centre. And for more, DD India correspondent Akshay Dongre joins us from New Delhi. Akshay, can you give us a context of the brutal violence in El-Faser in Sudan?
Well, the conflict goes several decades back. In fact, since the independence of Sudan from the British Empire, then the earlier, even before the breakup of Sudan into South Sudan and Sudan, there were conflicts taking place between different ethnic groups of Sudan. Now, the northern part was more aligned towards the Arab countries, and the southern part was more aligned to the African continent, the African nations, and the African identity as well. So. Over the period of decades, there were several civil wars that also led to the breakup of South Sudan. That always complained and that always accused the northern forces of not sharing the sort of governance with them, and then also trying to ethnically cleanse the population there of South. So after the breakup of South Sudan and Sudan, the sort of problems that remained there, Shubhendu, still exist, and there are ethnic divides there that are still quite persistent. And now, after the conflict broke out a couple of years back between the RSF, that is the paramilitary forces, and the Sudani armed forces, there were areas where both the sides had strongholds. The RSF was more strong in the west, and that was also near the Arab nations, and the SAF, the Sudanese armed forces, were more concentrated in the southern parts, where they had more support from the local population as well. So this is an ethnic divide, then ethnic sort of a conflict that has been going on for the last 2-3 years, and now RSF that is more aligned towards the Arab nations are also getting support from countries like the UAE, other countries there, and their support. They are getting weapons, they are getting supplies, they are also getting other kind of things to continue with this conflict, and that has led to the gains that RSF has made in the last several months. Defeating Sudanese armed forces that are not so well equipped and that are not getting enough funding as far as continuation of this war is concerned. So that is what we are seeing now. RSF making steady gains, and clearly what we are seeing is killing of the Sudanese armed forces, and all the people that are aligned with it are also getting threatened by arrests, by sort of harassment that is taking place in the country. So the situation remains quite bad to the extent that the piles of bodies are now being monitored by satellites of several countries as well.
Right, and the past struggle between Sudanese army and the RSF, we see, has thrown the country into chaos. What is the road ahead for them?
Well, the road ahead looks quite murky, Shubhendu, because what we are seeing is essentially a civil war taking place in a country in Africa that already is one of the poorest countries in the world, that is quite low on humanitarian indexes, that is quite low on the supplies and food supplies and other kind of essentials that are required by the people there. So the situation remains quite murky. We don't know what exactly is going to happen with the kind of mindless killing that is taking place in the country. It's also, the violence is also based on the ethnic divide too. Especially when it comes to the world is quite worried, but the kind of steady gains that the RSF is making and the kind of atrocities that they're committing is also putting a question mark on the support by the Arab nations who are sort of enabling this killing of the population, and there is no trials happening. There are no trials as such happening. It's just rule of the might, and people with the guns are killing people that don't have the essential supplies and they don't have enough guns to fight them. So the situation remains quite complicated at this point in time, and the road ahead looks quite murky.
Akshay, thank you for that detailed roundup. US President Donald Trump on Friday denied he was considering striking inside Venezuela, appearing to contradict his own comments from last week, though amid intensifying expectations that Washington may soon expand drug trafficking-related operations. The US has built up a large military presence in the Caribbean in the recent months, with fighter jets, warships and thousands of troops. That presence will significantly expand in the coming weeks with the arrival of Gerald Ford aircraft carrier strike group. It was not clear whether Trump was ruling out future strikes inside Venezuela or simply saying no final decision had been made. On Friday, when asked by reporters on Air Force One if media reports that he was considering striking within Venezuela were true, Trump said no.
When they treat me with that kind of respect, they're treating our country with that kind of respect, which is much more important. and our country is respected again. Do you have any questions?
There are reports that you are considering strikes within Venezuela. Is that true?
No.
That you made a decision on that?
No, it's not true.
UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres supports the UN Human Rights Chief's criticism of US military strikes in the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean.
The Secretary-General, as I said, echoes what Mr. Volker said, what the High Commissioner said, that, you know, in what people say are operations to counter illicit drug trafficking, they must adhere to international standards, including limits on the lethal use of force. It's clear to us at the UN, I think we've been very upfront about it, that issues regarding organized crime, regarding the illicit drug trade is a serious threat to member states and communities worldwide. Combating it requires international cooperation, as well as innovative public policies to address the root causes of the violence and the drug addiction.
Meanwhile, UN Security Council voted to reduce its peacekeeping obligations in Colombia after pressure from United States, which has denounced President Gustavo Petro's policies. In a resolution adopted with 12 votes in favor and 2 abstentions, the US and Russia, the UN will extend its mission for another year in Colombia, but reduce provisions related to the protection of ethnic minorities there. Earlier on Friday, the UN urged US to halt strikes on vessels in the Caribbean, where at least 62 people have been killed in strikes on boats Washington alleges are being used for drug trafficking. US President Donald Trump appeared to issue a lifeline on Friday for low-income Americans reliant on food aid, saying he does not want them to go hungry. This is a day before some 42 million people could lose their monthly assistance. Trump said he had instructed his lawyers to ask for clarification regarding the court ruling that barred his administration from suspending food aid during ongoing government shutdown. A federal judge in Rhode Island gave the program a temporary reprieve earlier on Friday, ordering the White House to use emergency funds to pay for food stamps during the shutdown in a case brought by charities and other groups. Now entering its second month, the federal shutdown has morphed into a slow-motion implosion of public services and a growing economic convulsion. Without immediate intervention, millions of Americans will begin feeling the full force of the shutdown for the first time this weekend. In an unprecedented move to respond to the ongoing government shutdown, 3 major early childhood education providers in Georgia have joined forces to secure an emergency loan to keep the Head Start programs open. The organizations announced on Tuesday that they turned to the Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta for help to keep more than 5,500 children across Georgia in the classroom. The administration says it has scraped together enough money to cover Friday's payday for active duty troops, but acknowledges they could go unpaid by mid-November. And US air travel was beginning to suffer badly, with New York area airports all under restrictions due to part of reduced staffing at control towers. In other news, Moldova's parliament elected a new prime minister on Friday to lead a small nation's bid to join the European Union and break free of Russia's political influence. Alexandru Montanu, a 61-year-old economist, will manage a new government after recent elections. The ruling party of Action and Solidarity won a fresh mandate to continue Moldova's EU drive. The parliamentary vote last month, in which President Maia Sandu's PAS won an outright majority, was seen as a rebuke to Moscow. Chrysanou's Soviet-era ruler, which officials have accused of widespread political interference, Russia has denied the charges. Montanu's government will need to weather significant economic headwinds and stubbornly high inflation, largely a result of Russia's 2022 invasion of neighboring Ukraine. Thousands of students from across Serbia gathered in Novi Sad on the eve of the first anniversary of the rail station roof collapse that claimed 16 lives last November. The tragedy touched off a largely peaceful nationwide protest movement led by university students and professors that had shaken President Alexander Vucic's 13-year grip on power. Protesters say student movement reignited public engagement in the country. Demonstrators who have been marching to Novi Sad are demanding a snap election, hoping to unseat Vucic and his populist Serbian Progressive Party. The main commemoration in Novi Sad features 16 minutes of silence followed by speeches from students. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Russia claims that its forces struck Ukrainian defense industry sites and other military targets over the past weeks. Britain's King Charles has stripped his younger brother Andrew of the title of prince. Tanzania's main opposition party says hundreds have been killed in protest over elections this week.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. Arey, it fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Our top stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to kick off 25th Chhattisgarh Foundation Day celebrations to unveil development projects worth over 14,000 crore rupees. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh calls for deeper Indo-Pacific cooperation at ASEAN Defence Ministers Plus meeting in Malaysia. Sudan's paramilitary force RSF claims arrests of fighters accused of abuses in El-Faser. UN demands probe into horrendous accounts of atrocities. US judge directs Trump administration to provide SNAP food aid benefits amid shutdown that hits its 31st day. Trump administration seeks clarification on funding food aid. In sports, FIDE Chess World Cup begins in Goa. Over 200 players from 80 countries to participate. The ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine has intensified as Russia claims its forces struck Ukrainian defense industry sites and other military targets over the past week. While Ukraine reported repelling multiple attacks and hitting concentration areas of Russian troops and equipment, Russian Ministry of Defense in its weekly updates said its operations had targeted Ukrainian military-industrial enterprises, energy infrastructure, military airfields and weapons depot. It added that air defense units had intercepted and destroyed 17 Ukrainian air-guided bombs, 10 US-supplied HIMARS rockets, 2 Neptune long-range missiles and more than 1,700 drones. Meanwhile, General Staff of Armed Forces of Ukraine outlined its defense actions over the previous day. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday pledged to stop Russian offensives across Ukraine, including assaults in Pokrovsk, Kupiansk. Russia's army has been inching towards Pokrovsk in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region for more than a year. Taking Pokrovsk could enable advances in the Donetsk region, which Russia aims to fully occupy, and the neighboring Dnipropetrovsk region, says Alexander Kovalenko.
The
Russians want to turn our whole country into what they are doing to Pokrovsk, to Kupiansk, and to other towns and communities. We must stop them where they have come and destroy them there. I thank every unit, every soldier, sergeant, and officer who defends position and defend our state.
President Donald Trump on Friday described his recent meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping as incredible, emphasizing the positive impact on American farmers. Earlier on Thursday, Trump had said he and President Xi had agreed to reduce tariffs on China in exchange for Beijing taking steps to combat illicit fentanyl trade, resume U.S. soybean purchases, and maintain exports of rare earths. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent later detailed that China would purchase some 12 million metric tons of American soybeans through January and 25 million tons annually over the next 3 years. President Trump expressed optimism about the deal, saying it would benefit U.S. farmers.
The deal with China is going to be wonderful. I think it's going to be long-lasting. I got really along with President Xi very well, as you saw. You were there. Many of you were there. And I think it's great. I think it's great.
President Trump has said the United States will not restart trade talks with Canada. This came a week after he called off negotiations over an advertisement aired by the Canadian province of Ontario. Trump called the commercial false, but said he has very good relationship with the Canadian Prime Minister and that the Prime Minister apologized for it.
I have a very good relationship. I like him a lot. But you know what they did was wrong. He was very nice. He apologized for what they did with the commercial. Because it was a false commercial. You know, it was the exact opposite. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs. And they tried to make it look the other way. And he did apologize, and I appreciated it. We had a great dinner, you know, with other countries, as you know. And I think we have a very good relationship personally. I think that what they did was wrong, but he apologized.
U.S. President said that Christianity faces an existential threat in Nigeria. He was adding that West African nation to a State Department watch list for countries of particular concern. Trump's comments came as Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group JNIM has claimed responsibility for an attack that killed a soldier in central Nigeria this week. Its first attack in the country. Nigeria is battling an Islamist insurgency led by Boko Haram and Islamic State West Africa province that has killed tens and thousands of people, displaced more than a couple of million population. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio hosted Bolivia's recently elected president Rodrigo Paz at the State Department. Paz is raising cautious hopes that a more market-friendly leader could pave the way for international investment in the country's ample lithium reserves after years of false starts under 2 decades of socialist rule. Bolivia holds the world's largest resources of the ultralight metal used in electric vehicles' batteries, but development has been hamstrung by political opposition and a law mandating state control of the sector that has chilled broad investor interests. Lithium companies will carefully watch Paz's first moves once he takes office on November 8th. A new White House rule issued on Friday restricts the ability of credentialed journalists to freely access the offices of Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt and other top communications officials in the West Wing near the Oval Office. The new memorandum from the National Security Council bans journalists from accessing Room 140, also known as the Upper Press, without a prior appointment, citing the need to protect potentially sensitive material. It said the change would come into effect immediately. The White House move follows restrictions put in place earlier this month for reporters at the Department of Defense, a move that prompted dozens of journalists to vacate their offices in Pentagon and return their credentials. The National Security Council said change was made to protect sensitive material now being routinely handled by White House communications officials as a result of changes to the council. Dutch centrist leader Rob Shutdown on Friday claimed victory in a knife-edge election over far-right head Geert Wilders, saying his surprise access showed populist movements could be beaten in Europe. 38-year-old head of the D66 centrist party is now on track to become the youngest and the first openly gay prime minister of the European Union's fifth largest economy. With far-right parties on the march in France, Germany and Britain, the Dutch vote was seen as a bellwether for the strength of populists in Europe. Postal votes are already being counted in The Hague, but the result will not be announced before Monday evening at the earliest. Tanzania's main opposition party said on Friday hundreds of people had been killed in protest over elections this week as the UN Secretary General called for an investigation into allegations of excessive use of force. Protesters have taken to streets since Wednesday, angered by exclusion of President Samia Suluhu Hassan's two biggest challengers from the race and what they described as widespread repression. Police have imposed an overnight nationwide curfew over the past 2 nights after government offices and other buildings were set ablaze. Internet access had been disrupted since Wednesday. Partial election results announced on Thursday and Friday shows Hassan winning commanding majorities across the country, and complete results were expected in the coming hours. Textile workers marched through Lesotho's capital, Maseru, on Friday morning to deliver a petition to the government, raising concerns over US tariffs and expiry of the African Growth and Opportunity Act. Lesotho's textile sector is facing uncertainty after African Growth and Opportunity Act expired in September, raising concerns about job losses and factory closures. The AGOA had given African countries preferential access to US markets, with Lesotho's trade totaling $276 million in 2024. Earlier this year, Lesotho faced a 50% tariff on US exports, later reduced to 15% in July. Protest leader Sam Mokele warned about the ripple effect of textile sector's decline on the economy.
Once the textile employees are affected negatively, the street vendors are affected, the retail sectors, different sectors have been affected. The transport sectors, though the people that are making earning or living by renting the houses, if the workers are not there, they're going to suffer. The economy is going to collapse. So this is one of the main reasons why we are saying, why we have this procession. We are saying to the government, do all your best to negotiate with the US government to renew AGOA.
Britain's King Charles has stripped his younger brother Andrew of the title of Prince in what many are calling one of the most dramatic royal actions in modern times. The decision was announced on October 30th and endorsed by the heir to the throne, comes amid growing scrutiny over Andrew's association with Jeffrey Epstein. A royal commentator described the move as both decisive and ruthless.
It was constitutionally very complicated, and the king had been considering it apparently for quite some time because of the complexity of it. But it was such a decisive move and a ruthless move, I would say, by the king.
Public reaction in London has been mixed, with some questioning whether the action was too harsh, while others have called for equal accountability under the law. Buckingham Palace said the move reflects the king's intent to protect the monarchy's image amid years of damaging headlines.
If we're looking at it under the scope of the law, then he should be prosecuted under the same sort of due process as any other member of public would be, or any British citizen would be under our laws. But I guess it doesn't work that way in this world, I guess.
Melissa, one of the strongest storms on record, began to dissipate after sowing devastation across much of Jamaica, cutting off communities in Cuba, drenching Haiti and leaving at least 50 dead. Melissa was the most powerful storm ever to directly hit Jamaica and the first major hurricanes to do so since 1988. The storm pounded southwestern Jamaica on Tuesday as a powerful Category 5 hurricane well above minimum wind speeds for the strongest hurricane classification and devastated many areas already battered by last year's Hurricane Beryl. Meanwhile, in Haiti, which was not directly hit but suffered days of torrential rains from the slow-moving storm, authorities reported at least 31 deaths and 20 people missing. Authorities also warned of risk of cholera, which re-emerged in Haiti in 2022 and spreads through contaminated water. In Cuba, which Melissa struck as a Category 3 hurricane, no deaths were reported as on Friday. Though it caused extensive damage to homes, roads and crops, hundreds and thousands were evacuated from eastern Cuba and around the island's second biggest city of Santiago de Cuba. Melissa was a post-tropical cyclone with maximum sustained winds of 85 miles per hour, heading northeast towards Iceland and the Faroe Islands. Cuban soldiers worked through heavy rains on Friday to save people trapped by flooding after Hurricane Melissa battered eastern part of the country. Soldiers worked through the night in Granma province, navigating waist-deep waters and using military trucks to evacuate families from inundated neighborhoods as rivers burst their banks. The rescue mission, coordinated with the Red Cross, also brought together rescue teams from multiple provinces. Evacuated residents were transported by trucks and buses to temporary shelters in safer areas, while military units continued search and rescue operations across the waterlogged region. Still to come on DD India News Hour. High gold prices boost interest in Arizona gold hunting. Updates on Sri Lankan economy as the inflation rises to 2.1%. And despite facing tough challenges, Joanna Garland of Chinese Taipei is pushing herself hard to win.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Fresh American tariffs on imports of medium and heavy-duty trucks took effect on Saturday, although with partial relief for vehicles entering the country under key North America trade agreement. The 25% tariff on trucks alongside a 10% duty on buses comes into place after President Donald Trump's government launched a Section 232 probe into such imports to gauge their implications on national security. The steel and aluminium sectors have also been hit with 50% tariffs, as were autos with a 25% duty. However, latest trucks tariffs will not stack on existing duties applied to steel, aluminium, copper, autos and lumber, the White House said. Trucks will be spared from separate reciprocal duties, setting out rates varying by trading partners as well. Gold prices have soared nearly 52% in 2025, hitting an all-time peak of over $4,381 per ounce on October 20th. The surge is driven by global geopolitical tensions, economic uncertainty, and steady central bank purchases. In Arizona, the excitement over gold prospecting has also intensified. Locals and tourists alike are using metal detectors and mining gear to hunt for flecks of gold. At Goldfield Ghost Town, a restored 1890s mining settlement near Superstition Mountain, visitors pan for gold and explore mock mines. A guide at the site narrates the region's rich gold mining history.
mining has a very rich history here in Arizona. As a matter of fact, most of the people that were coming out here at the time, and the reason our town even exists, is because of that gold rush. That we're the classic boom to bust story. People come out here every single year prospecting and hunting, usually hoping for a piece of that lost Dutchman gold, as it's our most famous story around, and people are searching for it to this very day.
And Sri Lanka's inflation rose slightly in October, climbing to 2.1% year-on-year in October 2025. Data from the Colombo Consumer Price Index shows headline inflation continuing its gradual move towards the central bank's target range from 1.5% last month. Core inflation, which excludes volatile food and energy items, edged up to 2.2% from 2% in September, indicating mild underlying price pressures. The central bank expects inflation to gradually accelerate towards its 5% target in the coming months, supported by continued policy measures aimed at maintaining economic stability. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for all the action from sports. In chess, FIDE Chess World Cup is being held in Goa after India became the central pillar in the global structure of the sport. The tournament opened in grand style at the Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Indoor Stadium in Goa, as dignitaries, players and guests gathered for a dazzling ceremony blending culture, sports and symbolism. As many as 206 top chess players from 80 countries participating in the tournament. World champion D. Gukesh enters as the top seed, leading a strong 24-member Indian contingent. Arjun Erigasi and R. Pragnananda are seeded second and third, respectively. The tournament includes wildcard entry Divya Deshmukh representing India. Despite facing tough challenges and physical fatigue, Joanna Garland of Chinese Taipei is pushing herself hard in a final tournament of the season. Speaking to DD India's Ritesh Ranjan, she says that she is competing without a coach and has had to return to the court even after long, exhausting matches. Garland added she is determined to finish the season strong and end on a high note before the winter holidays.
I have a tennis star player, Joanna Garland, with us. And she just won the match and came to speak to us. Joanna, what was your experience and how, yesterday also there was a long match and then today, how was your fitness and what actually was challenging?
So I played 3 hours and 20 minutes yesterday, came through the match and then had to play again today within 24 hours. The conditions here are pretty tough for me. I'm sure they're tough for everyone as well. It's hot, it's humid, yeah, I'm just happy that I got through. I think I would consider myself sort of mentally strong, and that's helped me get through these 2 matches. Yeah.
What was challenging? And you were talking about the challenges like physio, trainer, unavailability of them. So how are you coping up with that, and what your next plans are for next matches?
So coming into this week, my coach was supposed to be here, but a day before he left, he told me that he forgot to apply for his e-visa, so he couldn't come. And after he told me that did it for me. Like I was like, you know what, I don't care anymore. I'm just going to go out and play and like try my best and get through the week. So it's been a bit of a challenge. Like when I don't have my coach here, I feel like my game isn't as good as it normally is when he is here. And so this is actually my last week of 9 weeks on the road, and it could potentially be my last tournament of the year, and I just want to go out with a bang. Like I don't want to have a bad performance where I let myself down mentally or with my attitude. So I've just been telling myself like keep fighting for each point and end the year on a good note, and it's paid off. Yeah.
Before going to, for holidays, she wants to bank, and that is what has kept her going even after facing all these odds. With camera person Surya, Ritesh Ranjan, DD India.
That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and the world on DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS. You can scan this QR code on your screens and download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.